Right, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about the United and Brighton game. So I'm gonna, if anyone has seen the one I did of the game against Sevilla, it's the thing I've talked about in that, the lineup, player performances, subs I would have made, and what was the other one? Score prediction. That was the one I didn't add in. It was the score prediction. So, essentially, in order, what I'm going to do is compare the lineup Ten Hag had, and then what I would have lined up. And with this one, I think it was only one difference. With the Sevilla game, I had a couple of differences, but in this one, I think it's just the one player. What I predicted the score would be. Then it's going to be player performances, and then subs that were made in the game, and the different subs I would have used. And I think again in this one they're pretty similar. So, yeah. So the lineup Ten Hag chose is here, and then my one is here. I hope it is. I hope I've figured out how to get that in the editing. If not, I just look like a Wally. But that's them. I think the only difference is he started Eriksen, I was started Sabitzer. And yeah, I think that's the only difference we had really in the squad. I just think, I'm not saying Eriksen is bad or Sabitzer is better. I think they're very almost carbon copy player styles. I just think Brighton are a very heavy attacking kind of team. A lot of fast and young players on that. And don't get me wrong, as I said, I think Eriksen is brilliant. Both me and my dad have always thought we've both sitting there going like, oh, he's great, even when he was at Tottenham. But anyway, moving on from that, I just think Sabitzer would have had more of the stamina and more legs to run around and do more chasing than Eriksen would at the moment. But not much else really. It is just that I just thought Sabitzer would be able to do more chasing for longer. The score prediction, I predicted us to win by 1. And to be honest, I thought it was going to be in the last 10 or 20 minutes. Ten Hag would bring on Weghorst and he'd just score a jammy goal, like a little tap in. Almost like what he did in the Carabao Cup. He did score on that, didn't he? Yeah, I'm going to look like a Wally if he didn't, because then I'll just look like I'm imagining stuff. But I did just think it'd be a jammy goal, but it was more just thought it was going to be a jammy Weghorst goal. Player performances. Now, 2 of these, and there's one that is just outstanding and I thought was great. And I'm sure everyone kind of knows who I'm going to be talking about. But I'm going to stop saying this, that and the other, and there was 2. I'm just going to get into it. So I think Lindelof was really good in that game. I genuinely, for the longest time I thought he has been a very good third or fourth choice centre back. And I think Maguire just drags him down and makes him seem almost just not as good as he actually is. I think Lindelof is underrated. Really underrated? No, so I don't think he's extremely underrated. I just think he is a little bit underrated. He's, as I said, I think he's a brilliant third or fourth choice centre back. But I do think he really showed in that game that look, he is a good defender. But yeah, I think Lindelof really showed in that game that you could pair anyone at the back with Maguire and he will make them look bad, because they'll essentially have to be playing both right and left centre back. So I think he did really well. Obviously he scored our winning penalty, so that was class. Next person I want to talk about is Anthony Martial. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Martial isn't a talented player. He is a talented player. And I know this, if I was putting around with people like Mark Goldbridge, it would upset them. Because people bang on about how Ten Hag has said, Martial is one of the hardest working in training. He's going to be a big part of the club. That's well and good working hard at training. But I don't think we see that enough on the pitch and in games. There was one moment during that game where Anthony came in on the right, put it to his left, took a shot, and Sanchez couldn't get his hands to it, so he had to just knock it back out into play. But by the time it had been knocked out, Martial had switched off because he wanted the ball. Anthony didn't do it. Anthony didn't play it into him. He took the shot, and you saw him just reacting, and he's closed his eyes and he's doing this and that, and he's looked up, so we can't see where the ball is, and he's just switched off. So I don't think he's lazy. I just think he switches off too often. Like at that moment, you could see Rashford kind of coming in a little bit off the left. I genuinely thought Rashford was going to get to that ball. Obviously he didn't. But the fact your left winger is coming in and getting to the ball before you while you're in the box as a striker, that moment there, if he was on, realistically we would have gone one ahead and possibly just won the game via that goal. But again, he's not lazy. He just switches off, which is my biggest problem with him, because you're sitting here like, you're good. We've seen glimpses of it. Assists he's made, dribbling, some of his goals have been really good at times, but he just switches off, and it frustrates not only me, but I'd say a lot of United fans. So that was my problem with Martial in that game, switching off too often and just whinging. Anthony, now, don't kill me. I don't want riots outside my house. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, again, it's not going to be... it's the same as Martial. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not talented and he doesn't have potential. He does, right? He does by far have potential. I don't know if anyone else thinks this, but I think he's very like Ronaldo when he came to United first. I'm not saying he's at the same level as Ronaldo. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is he's very... he relies on dribbling a lot. And coming in off the left. And that's fine. But where him and Ronaldo differ is Ronaldo can use both feet. Anthony can't. And I think that's... like... you'll have people say, oh, well, Ronaldo does this, that and the other, and he scored loads of goals, but he didn't pass. Anthony doesn't pass either. But again, Ronaldo didn't really need to pass, because if he couldn't get the shot off on his left, he'd just pop it on his right and just send the goal. Anthony can't yet. So I genuinely I hope Ten Hag really drills him to get into the habit of using his right when he needs to, because as we saw in the Brighton game, he's really simple to shut down. You just force him to his right foot, and you may as well have Doris from down the road taking shots, because they're not going to go in. They're just not. So Anthony, when he has to use his right foot, and 95-year-old Doris are the same on that field, they're not going to score. So that's it. Granted, Anthony will outrun Doris. Doris might need her walking for him, but that's not what my problem is with him. I just think he needs to pass more and work on his right foot, because again, it's the not passing, and then he's easily shut down, but just force him to his right. So this last one, I think this one's been pretty shorter than the one about Sevilla, but we got thrashed 5-2 on Agri in that one. This one we just won on pens. Subs made. As I said again at the start of the video, very similar subs and layout for this. So in the game, Ten Hag took off Wan-Bissaka, popped on Malacia. It's fair enough. Eriksen for Fred, Bruno Fernandes for Sabitzer, Anthony for Sancho, Martial for Weghorst. Bissaka for Malacia. There's not much else we can do about that. We have a limited amount of fullbacks that are actually decent. And now Williams was at the game, I think, as a sub. I just prefer Malacia. I think Williams I think he's overrated. No. I don't know, I just don't like Williams as a player. I think he's one of our more sellable assets. Again, something I said in the keep, sell, loan, all that. Eriksen for Sabitzer, have that as well. Fernandes for Fred, same here. Now, where we differ though, is in the game, Ten Hag when Anthony came off and Sancho went on. Now, oh no, I have that as well. Look at me being a sap and just not I've made a right worry myself at times in this video. So yeah, I think we have the same. Ericsson, Fred, no Fernandez, Fred, Ericsson, Spitzer. Yeah, again, it's the one substitution and the one player that he started, and I would have changed. Now I know I'm saying I'd take Ericsson off for Sabitzer, and I'd Sabitzer starting in my 11, but I'm on about the subs with Ten Hag's thing. So just want to clear that up in case someone's sitting there going, but you've started Sabitzer, how are you going to take Ericsson off? So yeah, I'm just going from the subs that would have been made while Ten Hag's 11 played. Obviously, because my 11 doesn't really matter. Again, didn't play. The difference, the only sub I changed out is Martial for Palestri. As I said in the Sevilla one, I genuinely love Palestri. I think he's great. His dribbling and his assists and his passing that time is just, there's a lot of potential there. But I would have done Martial for Palestri and then put Palestri out on the left, and then we'd obviously have Sancho on the right. So there are two fresh legs and pretty quick wingers. And instead of putting on Weghorst, I would put on Rashford. Hang on. No, I wouldn't put on Rashford. Oh, what am I on about? I'd be taking Martial off, putting Palestri on, and then pushing Rashford into striker, and then having Palestri on the left. That's what I was on about. Or you can put Sancho on the left and Palestri on the right. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, I'd be putting Palestri on and then pushing Rashford into striker. So that's really everything. I think I've covered everything. But yeah, I think the Brighton game was okay. Do you know, Brighton's lineup and how the squad was working was really interesting to me. You know, it seemed like they had more men in midfield. They didn't, but I think it's the way they were lined up and how their system works. I don't know whether they started. I don't know where they started. Is it a 4-4-1 or a 4-4-2? But I think the fullbacks moved up into almost like a right mid, or another, or two more central mids when they were on the offense. So then there's more people in the central kind of centre of the field to kind of cut airplay off. But it was really fascinating to see, and it worked, didn't it? They took us to penalties. Granted, we missed a couple of quality shots, and there was a couple of times in the game where you were sitting there screaming at the, your tablet or the telly, whatever you were watching on, at some players, and you're like, just pass, pop that in the box, there's someone there, and they didn't. But yeah, I found Brighton's lineup really, really interesting, how the squad worked, and some of the players were really good. So I think, yeah, I've covered everything I wanted to cover in this video. So yeah, that's it for this one. As I said, I have one on the Sevilla game, which was a joke of a game. And then obviously a video I've talked about in this one and in this Sevilla. I have a video up on players I'd sell, players I'd keep, who I'd loan out, and what players that we have in on loan, who would I be letting their loan run out, and who I'd be putting on a permanent. But anyway, I'm gonna cut out here and stop this video because I keep offering for ages. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.